Nurses of Reddit, what's the most entertaining thing someone has said coming off of anesthesia? I don't remember this, but apparently when I woke up from getting my wisdom teeth removed, I wanted to get the teeth back. I was pretty adamant about it, but the dentist compromised by letting me take a picture of them on my phone. I was looking at my phone and saw the picture and I was like, what's this? And he explained what had happened. They let me keep mine. Put them in a tiny baggie and sent them home with me. Me too. I gave them names while the anesthesia was wearing off. Obligatory I'm not a nurse had a colonoscopy back in my mid-20s, guess I kept opening my eyes during the procedure because they taped my eyes shut. Woke up, couldn't see, and started screaming at the top of my lungs that I was blind. Mom ripped the tape off and told me to shut the hell up. She never swore, so that was even scarier than being blind. Not the nurse, the patient. I have not been given enough gas for the first time. I was still numb, just very vaguely conscious. A nurse reported me for starting to scream anti-Semitic slurs at my surgeon during SIG electrode implanting. Mind you, from my point of view it was putting the mask on, taking 3 or 4 drags, wake up some seconds later in a different room. Screaming anti-Semitic slurs at a Jewish man in a Jewish country with about a third of your skull fully exposed and with holes in it is not a good idea. Thankfully, he was kind enough to not lobotomize me. Me, coming out of it at the dentist's office. Me, you have to save them. Dentist, save who? Me, the OWLS. Dentist, what owls? Me, the owls trapped inside the gas machine. They were hooting, I could hear them. You have to save them. Who? Was a student nurse for 2 semesters. On a placement in a post-op ward. An old guy had a reaction to the aesthetic, thought he was back in the Korean War, kept trying to get out of bed to help his mates. The 2 nurses couldn't figure out how to stop him, they called security. Meanwhile, I walked up and in my most officious sounding voice said to the nurse I was partnered with, stand down lieutenant, I'll take over from here. She looked confused but moved aside. I said to him, soldier, you took some shrapnel, you need to rest and recover, now stand down or I'll have you court-martialed for insubordination, understood? He looked at me for a second, looked around, replied nice and loud yes ma'am and went back to bed. Amazing improv. Bravo. Not a nurse, but after her hip surgery my grandma thought she was fighting in the War of 1812. Any spine-tingling stories she had to tell? I was coming out of anesthesia and the nurses in the recovery room were all poking fun at each other about which Hogwarts house they would be in. Me, according to my ex-wife, I'm a house elf. Greater than ex-wife obviously, she gave you a sock at some point. Flight_19_navigator is free. Not a nurse, but after I got my wisdom teeth out I was convinced I was Clark Kent and kept taking my glasses off and mumbling I'm Superman. And then I cried when they told me they were going to put my teeth in the incinerator because for some reason drugged me thought they meant all my teeth. I once told the nurses to stop, I wasn't asleep yet. I wasn't ready. They laughed and said they were done. Another time I came out saying sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy has nuts, mounds don't. No clue why I was singing this, but the nurses thought I was hilarious and let family know this happened. Not a nurse, but I underwent a procedure and had to be put under anesthesia. According to my dad, who was in the room, the doctor asked me how I was feeling and I said to him, I feel like shit. Can I go back to hell? Not really funny I guess, but it was funny at the time. My friend tried 700 milligrams his first time taking DXM and he was telling us that he went to hell and was hanging out with XXXTentacion and Juice WRLD Lamau. I'm not the nurse, I'm the person. I said the nurse had beautiful eyes. Also I saw her with 4 eyes due to hallucinating. In that case it sounds like 4 eyes was better than 2. A friend of mine woke up after surgery and stated I want to eat a Christmas tree. Who doesn't? After my spinal surgery I was talking about how excited I was that Voldemort wanted to marry me. Be quiet, do not speak of him, that shall not be named. 1. Apologies for the format first time poster. 2. Not a nurse, but it's still a funny story. My brother was coming off of anesthesia after getting a tube down his throat. He has this issue with dairy where his throat swells and it's hard for him to swallow things, and he was talking to my mom before saying, "Mom, you're an asshole." She asked him why and he said, "You woke me up from the best nap ever." Sorry if it's not that funny, but I got a good chuckle out of hearing this story. Also not a nurse, but I had ankle surgery last year. They gave me animal crackers after, and I remember being really upset that I didn't realize until the last cracker that I forgot to look at the animals and appreciate each one. One does not simply eat animal crackers without acknowledging which animal they're about to eat. But in your case I think you had a good excuse. At the dentist I woke up like a shot from anesthesia, got up, and ran through the office, dental assistants chasing me. I ran to the washroom, still drugged up, looked into the mirror and while pawing my numb face said, "I need to make sure I don't look like Joan Rivers." Not a nurse, but I woke up from surgery pissed because the anesthesiologist told me he was just giving me oxygen, but then next thing I knew I woke up in post-op. I told the nurse that bitch lied to me and she just said okay and went to get my parents, lol. I mean, he may have been, losing the few minutes before you go under is pretty common. Still feel bad for getting mad at the nurse that was just quietly reading a magazine waiting for me to wake up, lol. Patient here with a great story nonetheless. When I got my wisdom teeth removed, I apparently had a religious experience. I'm agnostic, embarrassed smiley face. I told my mom, who was with me, that I saw people walking on water. Next, I kept telling her that I saw Jesus. Apparently, when the female nurse came back into the room I did the Catholic sign of the cross and whispered to my mom, "That's him. That's Jesus." The nurse lost her shit. That's funny as hell, D. Not a nurse, but my twin sister started speaking fluent Spanish to my mom after she woke up from getting her wisdom teeth removed. We're half Puerto Rican, on our mom's side, so we've grown up hearing Spanish, but neither of us had ever carried a fluent conversation with her in it. But apparently my doped up sister could. NGL, I took Spanish in high school and when I'm drunk I can carry on full conversations. Sober, not so much. You mean you think you can carry on a conversation? It wasn't something he said, but I had a patient in his 50s attempt to motorboat his wife when she came to pick him up. She was mortified, and I managed to keep a straight face while giving her all his post-op instructions. This sounds like something my husband would do, smiley face. Did a short stint in recovery as part of my graduate program. I got proposed to a couple of times. Same guy would walk past me in the corridor a day later and not recognize me. How rude. Proposes and then ignores you just because he didn't like your reply. Tongue. Student nurse here. Start medical surgical clinical next week and I can't wait to see some of this stuff in action. I had a male patient who as he woke up mumbled, "I'm not pregnant." I hope I say some stupid shit when I go under for wisdom teeth removal, lol. I'm pregnant. Not a nurse, but was in charge of my sister after she got her wisdom teeth out. Got her in the car and she was bawling. Wouldn't stop crying and trying to put her fingers in her mouth. Mind you, she was 20 at the time. I got her back to my apartment, and she's having a hard time staying upright, so I'm helping support her as we walk up to the door. She's still crying, but is now trying to do a heel click. We almost fall over. My neighbor sees us and runs over to help open my door. We get her inside. She then proceeds to spend another hour crying about how she wants to write a Harry Potter/Pride and Prejudice crossover ballet, in which she would play Dumbledore, Lizzie Bennet, and Mr. Darcy herself. I then asked her who I would play. She said Hedwig and Mr. Collins. That's when it stopped being entertaining. Greater than I then asked her who I would play. She said Hedwig and Mr. Collins. That's when it stopped being entertaining. Hedwig is an honor to play SMDH. Mr. Collins sounds like she thinks you need to confess and make amends, lol. When I got my wisdom teeth out, the nurse was trying to wake me up and said, "Okay, it's time to open your eyes. Can you open your eyes for me?" I said, "Say please." She said please very nicely, and I opened my mouth as wide as I could. This reads like a John Mulaney joke and I love it. Not a nurse but the patient. I went under to get my tonsils and adenoids removed. After when I woke up I was loopy and I said, "Can I only eat ice cream for a week?" The nurses in recovery started laughing. I regretted saying that later cause I was in 5x worse pain than the doctors said I would probably be if I didn't say that right after I woke up. A man asked me if his body parts still belong to him and I still think about it. Lamau probably wanted to make sure kidneys coming in equal kidneys coming out. I'm a PACU nurse. Almost no one is funny when they wake up from general anesthesia. They'll often be sleepy, or cranky. Some people ask lots of repetitive questions, like, how long did the surgery take? 5 to 10 times. Often the patients will be in pain. That's about it. I ask this also as someone who did silly things coming off of anesthesia after my wisdom teeth got pulled. At the time I was Buddhist, and I took off a lucky Buddha necklace before the procedure. Apparently that's the first thing that came to mind when I came to. Also that, and my dad had the wit to make me write down my thoughts after I woke up. That's the only reason I know I asked for it. Not a nurse, but when I got all 4 of my wisdom teeth out at once, I woke up and immediately asked, "Can I eat KFC now?" And they all got a laugh out of that. To eat was the only thing I cared about. Probably not as entertaining as I hoped, but I got a laugh out of them, so yay. Someone got you KFC after that though, right?